Hey, what's up y'all, Jukem here, welcome back to another Pokken Moveset crafting video. Now before we get into it, I just want to say thank you so much guys for watching the Tyranitar Moveset video. I'm so glad so many people liked it. I really thought the series would be a really cool idea, and I'm more than happy to continue it with Serperior. Now first off, like last time, I want to go over what kind of Pokemon is Serperior. Serperior is a grass-type Pokemon from the Unova region. It's the final evolved form of Snivy, going from Snivy to Servine to Serperior. It is one of the starter Pokemon of the region, and ironically, it's the only grass-type starter that isn't the first in its Dex entry of that region, considering Victini is number 0 for some reason, and it's very unique in how it battles, and it's really fast, but also more defensive than it is offensive, utilizing a lot of status moves and other supporting moves to buff itself and take down the opponent in various ways. Serperior is a Pokemon that only goes all out against super strong opponents, and that reason for that is because it gives off super intimidating glares that like paralyze the opponent, and this is because it's actually based on royalty, I think specifically French, which is a very cool design choice and shows off its personality very well. Now as for notable Serperior, I know in the anime, obviously Ash has his own Snivy. Why didn't it evolve? I have no idea. But his rival Trip actually has a Serperior of his own because he's smart enough to actually evolve it. That Serperior was like the doom of Ash's for the longest time until he fought him in a 1v1 battle in the Unova League. The one time he beat him, it was a 1v1 battle. That sucked. Now, if you read the Pokemon Adventures manga, you may know White, one of the main protagonists of the Black and White era. She has a Serperior of her own, given to her by N, and it's nicknamed Amanda. Okay, I really like the Black and White manga. I read it a lot as a kid. And this is more so a personal pick, but I love Poké Park 2, and there's a Serperior in that game that's like a zone leader, and I do not remember anything else about it. I just wanted to mention it because Poké Park 2 is great. Alright, but how would it play? Haha. Serperior would be a ranged fighter. It would have a lot of like long-range moves to utilize its tail, because why not? It would have a lot of tools to poke at the opponent from mid-screen, or even start full combos off of it. But for me personally, I'm a very movement-based guy, so I also thought it'd be cool, like, what if it could do a bunch of side swaps during the middle of combo, or like even on block to like keep up pressure and make its positioning a lot better. I thought it'd be a great idea, especially since Serperior does seem like super movement based, being a snake and all. But to counteract this, obviously it wouldn't deal too much damage, but like I said, its positioning would be great, and it would be able to get those attacks off consistently, so it would add up damage over time, over and over and over again. And with all this together, it would be a speed character, obviously, and it would have around 540 HP, not too much HP, but it would be ideally be able to avoid a lot of attacks to not take as much damage in general. But it does have the weakness of not being very good up close because it mostly relies on those ranged attacks. For its unique mechanic, I want to bring in one of the most notable things Serperior has to offer. Its hidden ability, Contrary. With its release act, Serperior just outright change its debuffs or buffs to reverse itself. Whether that's like from taking a debuff from the opponent, or when it debuffs itself, or if it's stupid enough and gives itself like an attack buff from the support and then it lowers it for some reason. But yeah, I'll talk about this more in just a bit. Also, I forgot to mention, but did anyone know that Serperior had hands? I knew, because I'm a freak. Anyway, going over its notable general attacks and traits. I don't like the way I type this. I don't know, like, oh, Serperior is a grand Pokemon. Wouldn't utilize its hands, instead attacking using tackles, tail strikes, leaves, and vines. I apologize in advance. But anyway, it also uses vines for, you know, grabs, because its stubby arms were like... I think they're just basically hands at that point. But also in Field Phase, because I don't think I talked too much about Tyranitar's Field Phase last time, it would utilize a bunch of types of plants that you can use at a range. Similar to how it would be in Duel Phase, where it plays at a range, but probably longer range too, just because it's in Field Phase and you kind of need longer ranged attacks, depending on the character. But yeah, it would just have that to play around the opponent and be able to like secure a Field Phase win in that way. Now starting off this giant list, because I'm stupid and I put 8 bullet points, is Serperior's AOI. My idea for this move would it would just put like 2 vines. I didn't word this very well in there, but it would put like 2 vines, and imagine it going like this. That's how its vines would go, and then it would just spin. It'd be like low budget drill peck, except it's an actual anti-air in that case, and it's very useful because it's a multi-hit and it goes all around her, so it hits both sides and it launches them up so it could start off the combo. I thought it'd be neat. It would be very lingering, but if it whiffs it, obviously it's gonna be wide open for a little bit longer than you might want to with a normal AY, because it's just a multi-hit. It'd be like 4 hits probably, if I recall. Grounded opponents get launched away like Drill Peck 2. I don't know why I had Drill Peck on my mind with this move. I don't know why I just gave Drill Peck to a freaking grass snake. Now for its 8X, it's just a simple like slam of its body down, so it would just like jump a bit into the air like any other 8X would, and then just turn its body to just like boom. My idea for that would just be like, okay, so if the opponent gets hit normally, they would just slid back. Like certain other attacks, I think like Blastoise's 8XX is like that, except this one, if they do wall splat against the wall, it would lead to a combo in that way. if they were hit in the air, they would just simply like launch down. But on crit, this attack would ground bounce them, starting off combos in that way. It's a bit slower, but it has very long range to make up for it. Now back to the release specs. Like I mentioned before, this would reverse any buffs or debuffs. So like an attack buff would go to a defense buff. This would affect anything that has like a opposite buff or debuff. So like even stuff like all crits would go to no crits, that type of buff. Stuff like the double jump or no support buffs would not be affected because they don't really have opposites to them. But yeah, it would just be a really neat mechanic that she could do whenever she has like an opportunity to do so. And she has moves that debuff herself, so it's very useful if she does find that opportunity, especially when against an opponent who also likes to debuff her. So she could go just from like, if she's fighting Sceptile, like I mentioned, if she gets hit by an 8Y, well, her attack is down. Well, guess what? She just pulled a Libre burst attack, and now she has an attack buff and a defense buff. Have fun. Now, because of this, I would say make the charge time 3 seconds before you can release it, mostly because during combos you might want to use your X moves. So like during a phase shift, you had like a decent amount of time to do contrary after, or if you want to reset them, that also works. So either way, a reset or a phase shift, you have to wait the 3 seconds right after, or you have to optimize your combo routes to not use your X button. So I think that would be very unique in that regard, and I think it'd just be very, very cool. Now this next one, this one's very funny. First off, I just guess low stance, superior avoid size. That's simple enough. But anyway, the high stance is the fun one. Now my idea, not my idea, it was actually Mutator's idea. His idea was Serperior would lengthen her body so she would like stand up, and this would extend her vertical hurtbox. Now her horizontal would be like normally it'd be right here, so like it would also shorten a bit, but like it would just be a giant vertical hurtbox. And what this would be used for is if the opponent is trying to cross you up with like a jump or something, and you just like body block them. You know how like some characters will just do like a jump to like avoid like the opponent trying to go over them when they're against the wall. It's kind of like that, except it's a bit dumb because not only can you just get hit from like random areas like you have Suicune's hurtbox, because not only is your hurtbox all whack like Suicune's, no, but you extend it, and then you would have the chance on reaction to anti-air them if you because they're gonna land right in front of you no matter what, so you can just anti-air them and get like a combo. I found that would be very funny, and I'm so glad Mutator thought of this idea because it would just be hilarious to see Serperior stand all the way up and only the freaking just block the opponent and be like, no, sorry. Next is its counterattack. Now this counterattack is a bit unique compared to other counterattacks. It's a 2-hit one. The first one is a low, so it's like a low tail sweep from Serperior, and then afterwards she swings her tail up. So that's the second part. That would be an actual mid. The first part is a low, but she also is immune to highs during that. Now she's not immune to highs during the charge up. No, it's just when she releases it. So she's like fighting a Sceptile who wants to 5x on her CA. She would be able to avoid it if she released it. Now I think I worded this weirdly when I said she's like spinning her body, but no, it's just like a low sweep and then she like turns around and does it again. Kind of like, I guess, like Sceptile 5OY where he like turns around to do the follow-up attack. Kind of like that. Now I mentioned here, but I say she cause an air attack. I'm thinking of like not having it be that case because I feel like that would be too good, because air attacks are really, really good in Pokken. So I guess more so it should be, if it's a crit or a fully charged one, the first hit would launch them into the air a bit, and then they get hit by the follow-up flip, which launches them high into the air and would lead to a combo. If it weren't that case, it would just be simply the first hit would hit them, they're still on the ground, and then the second flip would hit them, just knock them back, make them roll back. Kind of like Sceptiles. It would have longer range too, obviously. It'd be a bit slower because of that. But yeah, it'd be pretty unique. Now for its grabs, these are pretty unique grabs, all things considered, at least for the secondary parts, not that so much the animation part. For its field phase grab, I'd have it, after it grabs the opponent with its vines, it would just strike them multiple times with them before using Leaf Storm and blasting them back. So it'd be like coming it from behind it, like whoosh. Now this would give it its attack down, one of the ways it can debuff itself to then buff itself the contrary, especially since the Leaf Storm Blast will put them pretty far away, so it would have the room to use that contrary boost. Now for its dual phase grab, I would have it be like, oh, it would just throw in the air, and it should be like, whoosh, sha sha, with its Leaf Blade tail. I think that'd be just like really sick, like animation wise, it would make it look super badass as like a freaking empress or whatever it is. Now here's the fun part, and the part that Mutator also thought of. Well, I wanted this a bit. So basically, Serperior would then laugh, and by laugh I mean like Karen from Street Fighter laugh, like ha 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 ha, like that a bit, except not its hand, obviously, it would use its tail. But basically, it would just do that, and that's the part that I wanted. But then Mutator, the crackhead he is, was just like, okay, what if that happened during the grab? Then he thought, what if you could cancel this laugh to like run up and either like keep up your pressure, or if you want, you could continue the laugh, and after you finish the laugh, you gain synergy power. I don't know how long the laugh would be. Maybe it would be like 2 or 3 seconds. Probably, that sounds about right. The thought of Serperior just doing the Karen laugh. I don't know how to pronounce her name. Is it Korean Karen? I don't freaking know. But just the thought of her doing that laugh would just be hilarious. So I guess you could just say, yeah, this is a freaking girl Serperior at that case. Now next up, it's 5A, Leaf Blade. Now, I love Leaf Blade, but this is working a lot more differently than it is for Sceptile. Instead of like Sceptile's where it's just like a 1-slash, this will be a multi-hit strike where Serperior slashes multiple times with its tail, glowing green obviously because leaves, and then it would just strike multiple times. And this would have decent range with decent attack power as well. This wouldn't lead to anything unless you get like the rare wall splat opportunity, but it does have a charged version. This charged version is a final slash after the flurry of the first few, where it would just like dash forward, and this also crosses them up. This launches them into the air, whether grounded or in the air already. And this is just one way that Serperior can cross up the opponent. It could do it in a way, in like I guess a simple combo would be its counterattack into the Leaf Blade, because it would launch them high up that it would have enough time to use Leaf Blade's charge move. Now this final dash forward for its slash would be very punishable on block, but luckily the other version is not punishable. It'd be minus obviously, but it'd still just be a safer version of the move. So this move is mainly used just for combos, and while the other one is good used for pressure. And because of the flurry of hits, it's also really good for beating out counterattacks. Whether you wanted to use it quicker with the uncharged version, or if you were waiting for your opponent as they're charging their CA, you could do the charged version to hit them later and get more hits and maybe start off a combo even. Alright, next move, Vine Whip. Oh, you're like, oh, it's Vine Whip. It's a weak move from the main games. What could it do? Actually, a lot. I thought a lot about this move. Now, obviously, Serperior would use the vines already that it's been using for like grabs, other hits. And I forgot to mention, but those come from like her neck area. Basically, it would be like a 2-part attack. So the first hit would just be a simple lash, and then you have 3 follow-ups for the next slash. Now, obviously, if you just input 6A, it would just be a regular vine lash. It would have decent range, and it would go somewhat, it could somewhat like stuff out opponents who are in the air. It goes at like a somewhat kind of angle, not really much, but Serperior is pretty tall, so I guess assume around Serperior's like top like height. But then here's the 3 follow-ups. The first one is 6AA. This one would just be another lash forward that would just like launch them away. This will be good for as a finisher for a combo. It deals the most damage out of all 3 of them, and you can really combo off of it. The only way to combo off of it is, like I said, if there's like a wall. That's the case for like a lot of weird moves where if you only get like the wall at a certain like wall splat at timing, then you would be able to combo off of it, which is really cool still either way if you do recognize that situation. But mainly it's used for finishing off combos because it also does have the most PSP to it. Now for its 6AX, this one would be a little different. This one would be it using both vines and launching the opponent up. It would be like whoosh, and that would bring the opponent towards Serperior. Serperior would then, depending on the distance they could hit, it would either bring them in front of Serperior or behind Serperior. So this leads to another level of, hey, I recognize the opponent might get crossed up when they get hit here with my 6AX. I'm going to wall swap them, so then I keep up the pressure with an Oki or finish off the combo so I can get the wall splat damage. It's very cool in that regard. Now because of this, it would have slightly less damage to it, and it would also, but it would also have less PSP to it. And then finally, there's the 6AY. This is a command grab. It's a command grab that only works in the air though, so it's like Leaf Storm, but it's not like, oh, I have Hex range too, time to guess from that. No, that would be really stupid, I feel, because it would just be like Chandelure 5Y into Hex tick grab the entire time. It was like, oh, are you gonna jump? Okay, well, guess what? Now you just got hit by 6AX. Now you're getting full combo anyway. Oh, I forgot to mention this for 6AX, but it will also launch on ground hit. Now, what makes this a command grab unique is that, compared to the other two, is that it deals 0 PSP. It does deal the least amount of damage, but it does 0 PSP, so you can use it to reset the opponent, and it drops them exactly where they were grabbed. So like it throws them down, like that. Not only would you be able to use your release X if you have an attack debuff, because you would recognize, oh, I'm an attack debuffed, I'm not going to be able to deal as much damage with all this. I don't want to waste too much PSP, but I do want to reset them, and I do want to get it my attack buff, so I will pressure them in that after they wake up from that. Especially since this is the 6AY, not the 6AX. Because if this is 6AX, then you would have to then start doing your charge time with your release X, and that's 3 seconds. I'm just now realizing this. I'm so glad, because I was debating which one should be 6AY and which one should be 6AX. But yeah, basically 3 different options, one for a finisher, one for positioning, and one to reset them. I think that was very cool for a simple move that is like Vine Whip, but yeah. Now next is a bit of a stance move, Coil. For this one, Serperior coils his body. It gives it counter armor. However, it's not like frame 1 counter armor. Like Barrier, I guess, in that regard. It's not like stupid detect or freaking taunt. God forbid taunt. But the benefit to this is if the opponent hits Serperior, it does gain a defense buff. And this is why I think it's very cool, because it can buff itself in that way. So you do have to manage your release X's very well, because then you would have to like manage, hey, I have an attack debuff, but I also have a defense buff. Is it good for me to do contrary right now to get the attack buff even though my defense is up? Or do I want to keep the defense buff and not mind having my attack down? Or you can just wait till you get Leaf Storm and then do contrary and then do Coil, and then you have both buffs. It's really, really cool how you can manage that, because you wouldn't think, oh, I buff myself on this character that can reverse buffs. That's not a good idea. But I think in that case, it's like good management skill, if you have good management skills. And also you could like reverse it again if you do get the chance to be like, okay, now I want my defense buff. Because if you reset it, I think it might last longer probably. And also this gives it a way to deal with projectiles. So this is like Shandy, because then it would just be able to defense itself. But it wouldn't be able to like counterattack if it's like full screen. But it does have options to counterattack. What for a Serperior would use Slam. This is a simple move, but it's very strong. It would just slam its entire body, like lunging its entire body forward around mid-screen, and this would just knock the opponent down. I guess think of it like Krogan 6X, except he doesn't bounce back. It's like a reversal, so then you would knock them down, and you would be able to set up for Oki. And like I said before, it doesn't combo unless there's a wall. It is punishable on block, though. Now for the more fun move, I would say, out of the two. This is Aerial Ace. For the 4A, Y, or 4A, X inputs, Serperior would like spiral around, spinning upward. So it'd just be like an anti-air type attack, I guess, in that regard, sending its entire body forward. I think of it like how it puts its body forward, like Libre 8Y. Now, while it does anti-air, it is weaker than Slam. It doesn't knock down the opponents who are grounded. It only makes them roll back. But in that case, Serperior would be able to pressure them more on hit like that. You know why? Because it would still be able to use its aerial attacks after the Aerial Ace. On block, this would cross up the opponent, so that's another way to cross up the opponent to get out of like bad positions. But it wouldn't be for free though, because you would still have to like deal with a potential anti-air in that case. Like you would get distance between yourself, but if you try to extend your hurt box when you do an attack, you would be able to get like anti-air just because Serperior does have long range, and that is, I guess, a downside to some of its aerial moves it would have. I obviously never mentioned any of them, but in my brain space, my brain capacity, I feel like it would have it in that regard. Now going back to how it would be able to use aerial attacks, because of this, when it lands an anti-air or in the middle of a combo for that matter, it'll still be able to combo them right after. So this is a good way to extend combos or start combos. This gives it another unique aerial that pushes the opponent forward instead of just like having it in place with its usual 8Y. So it is a bit riskier because, like I said, you have to use Coil first, and that has a little bit startup to it, and you can also get grabbed out of it. This would be like probably like, I don't know, maybe frame 11 though? I feel like that seems about right considering you do have to use Coil for the startup first. Oh, and I forgot to mention, but when it does roll the opponent back, while it can pressure them, like I mentioned before for the other one on block, you could get anti-aired, but Serperior would definitely be able to land and block in time if it didn't press that button, and maybe be able to punish if the opponent whiffs their anti-air. So it's a very mix-up heavy move in that way. And then finally, in field phase, it would be able to actually angle its aerial ace left or right. So it's very useful for if the opponent does like, I don't know, like a side homing, and you're still facing forward because the game's like weird and then auto-correct it, then you could be able to punish them in that way. Now I mentioned before, but the opponent would be able to react to like the Coil if you didn't get them while they were pressing a button. While they can potentially grab you if they're quick enough, this does lead to sort of a mix-up because they also got to worry about Slam and Aerial Ace hitting them, and then they get like knockdown or something. I forgot to mention, but Aerial Ace on crit would launch them into the air. It wouldn't make them roll back. So in that case, they have to worry a bit if they want to do a grab when they see Coil. They could do a counterattack though, and that's probably the safest option depending on the character. But yeah, all around a very cool move that can be used to manage your buffs, knock the opponent down in a reversal, or using Aerial Ace to cross up with the opponent or start off air combos. Next up is the main move that gives it a debuff to use contrary for. Leaf Storm. This is a very powerful anti-air move, and I know it's an 8A, that's Leaf Storm, huzzah, Azuna drop baby. No, the snake isn't going to Azuna drop you. It's more so going to do what it's like it does in the side image. It's going to create a tornado of leaves, and this one starts low, so like it would be like starts low and then goes up. So in that case, it would anti-air like that. It would launch the opponent up. It would have a lot of scaling. I don't know if it would combo. So either if it could combo like from a wall splat, I'm not too sure. I forgot what I written down here actually. Meaning it's a starter for combo. Okay, I seemed very determined when I wrote that. Okay, I guess this is a combo tool. Yeah, but the tornado can be angled a bit with 7A or 9A to reach closer to Serperior or further away from Serperior. And because it's so powerful, like I mentioned, it would give itself an attack debuff. Being very powerful, and I think probably having a fair amount of PSP to it, it would be very good as like a combo finisher for combos that have very few hits into them. But also it's slow because it's a very strong move. It's basically Hyper Beam in that regard, where it's just super strong. I wouldn't say it's as strong a Hyper Beam. I would say it'd still do a good amount of damage, and because of that, it does scale heavily. You would be able to do cool stuff though, like you do Leaf Storm into like the Vine Whip grab, so you reset them, and then get your attack buff. On grounded hits though, because it can hit on the ground, it does just knock the opponent back. And you, like I mentioned, like I think like 3 other times, and there's a wall there, you'd probably be able to continue your combo. You probably would be able to use something like Vine Whip. I'm not sure if it, like, my mind's just thinking like, okay, if you try to hit them with Vine Whip, would you have enough time to hit them with the second part of Vine Whip? You probably could, but either way, you could just do the one hit of Vine Whip, because I don't imagine that part would have PSP. It would just be the one hit, and then you can do Contrary. It is very, very minus. I'd say -8, definitely. But you would still gain the attack debuff. And while that is usually a good thing if you land it, if you're right in front of your opponent after they block it and you have an attack debuff, when you finally do get out, you're not going to be able to like deal a lot of damage. It's not going to be very much worth it in the long run if you couldn't like have landed it like that. You can use the attack to get like the room to then use Contrary to get your attack buff. But like at that moment, you just be like, oh, I'm -8 and my attack's down. This is not good. Even if I do like counter attack, it's not going to do so much damage on crit. Now I know I already brought this up, but like Leaf Storm is another one of those moves that gives yourself the attack debuff. It's not just a field phase grab, because that also utilizes Leaf Storm in one way. So that gives you 2 moves to manage with your Coil buff, depending on the timing of everything, obviously. Very cool in that regard. Very slick lizard lady. Next up is Wring Out. Wring Out, haha. Did anyone remember this was an actual move in the games? Also, I would just like to mention, that is Licky Licky's tongue wringing out that Staraptor. That poor thing. This is a command grab, because why not have 2 command grabs like Sceptile? While also having Leaf Storm. Leaf Storm's not one of those command grabs, at the very least. But yeah, this is a decently ranged command grab. I wouldn't say it hits like mid-screen, because I feel like that'd be freaking bonkers, because it would just be like, hey, you're close to me, or you're mid-screen. But it's just like maybe a less than under mid-screen. Basically, it would just wrap its tail around the opponent and like wring them out, obviously, as the name implies. Squeezing them very tightly, and then afterwards it's done, it would just like turn around and slam them on the ground. Another move that can be used for corner swaps and stuff like that. Now the cool thing about this move is that it actually deals damage depending on how high the opponent's HP is. My thought would be if it has 70% or higher HP, that would be the most damage. If it has like around between 70% to 30%, it would deal a medium amount of damage, and then less than that, it would just not deal as much. It would be a command grab with PSP to it, so like Water Pulse. And while it does start combos, it does have a lot of scaling to it, so it's mainly used for the corner swap and the major damage it deals at the very beginning. You can either reset them in that case, or you'd be able to just drag them, phase shift, and maybe get a wall slam. Finally, for its A moves, we have Leaf Tornado. This is probably like one of its signature moves from like the anime, all that type of jazz, even though it's not really its signature move. Serperior would spin around, swirling into a tornado of leaves, and this would be obviously in the air, JA. And this is basically a get off me tool that surrounds itself in the leaves, and it's a multi-hit. Now you can actually move during this tornado, so you can do J4A or J6A to move left or right, even both if you want to go like left and right a little bit. It wouldn't be like too lingering, it'd be a big amount of hits though. Now to finish the move off, it wouldn't just like air tech the opponent, it wouldn't just launch them away air teching them. No, Serperior would then get out of the tornado and use its like a tail slam to launch them downwards, knocking them down. Now, and what makes this really cool is that depending on how you angled your tornado, when the attack hits, you would either launch them down and then you're moving left so you get away. You launch them down and you stay in place, so then you're ready for the Oki, or you launch them down and then you go over them for a cross-up. Now this can hit grounded opponents. It works the exact same way as it would for aerial opponents, just dragging them up along, but it is punishable on block because it's just like basically a very good aerial move to get the opponent off you, but obviously if the opponent's going to block the entire time, I feel like they deserve to be able to punish you in that case. All around amazing get off me tool while in air-to-air situations. Only thing you'd have to be afraid of is stuff like Spark or Reflect from Libre or Shadow Mewtwo respectively. Now, I want to go into its Synergy Burst. Synergy Burst for Serperior isn't a Mega Evolution like Tyranitar because it doesn't have one obviously, but I think aesthetically it'd be cool to have it like a green aura around it similar to like its other ability Overgrow, and have like leaves swirling around. I feel like that'd be very pretty for it, for like Empress Snake and herself. But that's not the only change. Some of its moves would in fact change. For Leaf Blade, I would have it be so that it would be fully charged all the time. It would just be 100% fully charged every time. So it would just do the slash. Now, while this does mean that if you do it on block, it's always going to be a guaranteed punish, because I'm not going to change that because I would just be freaking busted. It's like Leaf Blade Dragon Breath, like Sceptile mains. But yeah, this would be useful for combos that don't have enough time to use fully charged Leaf Blade normally. So like, I guess as an example, that I wrote down here, Wring Out. Normally after the grip and the slam backwards, Wring Out would launch them into the air, but you wouldn't have enough time. You'd have to do something like Vine Whip for like a corner swap or reset or something like that. But Leaf Blade would do a great amount of damage and you'd still get a corner swap. And this isn't even mentioning like all the other moves that I didn't ever like bring up because I'm not thinking of an entire move set. I'm only thinking of like the main moves of a character, obviously. But it's still cool to imagine like Serperior doing like 3 freaking side swaps during a combo just because Leaf Blade could just be fully charged like that. Oh, and I think I forgot to mention this for Leaf Blade, but after a phase shift, it would launch the opponent behind them. So like, I guess it's a good time to mention obviously because synergy burst, but you'd be able to just do, if you did do like 3 Leaf Blades in a row, it'd be sent behind them and potentially wall sweat. Now its other change is pretty simple. Leaf Tornado would have a little more horizontal range. It wouldn't do more damage. Besides the synergy burst, 10% boost, I think 10%. But yeah, it would just have horizontal range, so it'd be a bit bigger, more useful for inner airs for when the opponent wants to try to avoid your burst attack, which I'll get to in a bit. And then lastly, it would be 200 CC because I feel like it has very oppressive tools, especially the Leaf Blade thing by itself is really, really good in my opinion. And then with its burst attack, which I'll mention, that being grab, spoilers, would just be really, really strong in that case because you have the tools to knock the opponent out of the air, but also the tools to like punish them if they try to respect you. And it would last 12 seconds. Now for its burst attack, this is a really funny one that I thought of. It's probably just me, but I would call it Overgrown Resolve. I don't know why I had to mention that. I thought it was just a neat name. I'm very bad at coming up with names. I'm so sorry. But for its start off, it would do its glare, very intimidating glare. And also, did you guys know it doesn't learn glare by leveling up? It has to be breaded. I have no idea why, despite, okay, whatever. But like its Pokédex entries, it gives off an intimidating glare that paralyzes the opponent. Now this is a grab, probably around the same range as Mewtwo and Gengar's burst attacks. So a very simple startup. When the opponent gets hit though is the fun part, because the fun part, aesthetically. Basically, Serperior would just chuckle, Karen laugh. And then I think like transition wise it'd be really, really pretty if like the like a swirl leaves came by, and then there's in the forest with the camera shifting around like the paralyzed opponent with Serperior nowhere in sight, and then you see the camera angle change to Serperior like in front of a giant tree, and she's just standing there menacingly. But yeah, then after that I thought of, okay, then the roots from the giant tree would come out with it using Frenzy Plant. It would wrap around the opponent like crushing them while keeping them in place with their head exposed obviously. And then this is the part that I love, just having Serperior like slither up to them, go up to their face, and then just slap them twice, just like bitch slap them like that. And this would be the only move where it would use its arms, because I think they mentioned before it would not use its arms at all. It would just use tail strikes. It would just use everything else on its body or other plant related stuff. This is the only move where it would just like use its arms. I find that hilarious because this is my ultimate move. Slap. Now perish. And then after this it would just turn around a bit, not too far away, so it's like a cool camera angle of it like laughing again as the Frenzy Plant just like crushes them and like puts them underground, I would assume, just like, and that's when the move would finish. I love coming up with like these super moves because I think it'd be really cool to show off the personality of the Pokemon, whether that's Tyranitar being destructive or Serperior just being smug as hell. Now for the data of the move, like Gengar and Mewtwo's burst attacks, this would be frame 1 invincible. However, unlike Gengar, Mewtwo, and Empoleon's burst attacks, Serperior doesn't have a way to combo into her grab burst attack. Now, Empoleon's the easiest to grab into it, like whether that's Aqua or Defog. Mewtwo does have Crit Confusion. It could use that to combo into it. And Gengar has Hypnosis. That combos into his burst attack. Serperior has no way to do it. So it's just a risk of whether it's going to do it or not. However, I have mentioned, like I said, it does have the Leaf Tornado boost. It does have good anti-airs. It does have that silly upset, as I mentioned. It does have the tools to prevent opponents from jumping in that case, which I feel makes up for it not being able to combo into it like the other characters. Though another downside to this move compared to the other grabs, it doesn't deal as much damage as Mewtwo and Gengar's. Maybe a little slightly more than Empoleon's, because Empoleon's could just combo into his and that's just like for free. But yeah, it wouldn't do like 260. It would just do probably around like 230 with the synergy 10% boost. Now here's my favorite part of the video, the part where I get to nerd out about how I put all the freaking game mechanics into this game. Now, I feel like I don't really have to mention this, but I've mentioned the ability Contrary by name multiple times here for its release X. That obviously reverses any buffs it gives. It doesn't have to do it manually like in this, but I feel like if it was just like that normally, it would just be really stupid. It'd be like, hi, any moves that debuff you are just automatically buffed. You have no risk at all. And it's a really cool thing because it's very notable as a thing in competitive where it uses Leaf Storm to buff itself. And then references is referencing Karen because it laughs. Haha. It's very posh, and I feel like that very much fits it. Usually it's more calm in like some of the side games, but I feel like in this game it could be the exception because I think it would just be really funny to have it just be like, ha 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 ha. I feel like we need that. I guess Gardevoir kind of laughs a bit, but that's only during like its victory animation. Now next one, simple. Coil in the main games does buff your defense. It also buffs accuracy and attack, but that wouldn't be translated in this game. Just a defense boost. It's very, I feel like, as like coiling up, it makes more sense to be like mainly focused on the defense aspect of it, especially with it being a stance move that you could then go into slam or aerial ace for. Blaze Storm, I don't have to mention it, gives attack down. Wow, these are man, look at my references, guys. They're all super simple. Anyone who's like touched the game could like guess what they do. Actually, wait, never mind. Wring Out. And remember when I asked if anyone remembered Wring Out? This move actually, like in the game, like how I mentioned before, actually does do more damage depending on how strong the opponent is. I think it does like 150 from a full HP, but it's not really that useful. But I think it'd be really cool in Pokken. Now, Leaf Tornado here is another Street Fighter reference. I actually had this idea because Seth in that game has a move where he kind of rises up. He starts from ground level. It's not like an aerial move, but I did think it'd be cool to have like that sort of like swirling move that it's a multi-hit. And then finally, it's Burst Attack Glare. Not only does it reference the Pokédex entries, but Glare in the games, the actual move, does paralyze the opponent. So it makes a lot of sense for it to be a grab burst attack. Now in summary, its pros and cons. It excels at mid-range, not so much in close range, but it's very good in mid-range. A lot of its moves I mentioned, whether that's freaking Leaf Storm, Wring Out, Vine Whip, has great range to it. And while they may be a little slower because of the range, they are still very useful. Serperior would also have great positioning with all its many moves that side swap or like can make itself position itself, especially since it has great movement speed to help with it. And while I say it does suck a bit while up close, it does have moves like Coil and Leaf Tornado to help itself get out of the situations. It obviously can apply buffs to itself, that's really good, though if it can't do its like contrary boost off of its Leaf Storm, then it kind of sucks a little bit, though it does have the reliable Coil boost. And of course it has many amazing command grabs, whether that's with Vine Whip, Wring Out, or its Burst Attack. Its Burst Attack in particular is really good at threatening since it's just frame 1 invulnerable. Now for the downsides, besides its lackluster up close game, it does have a very weird hitbox because it's, believe it or not, it's a 10-foot snake. Now that's obviously just because it's very long, but I was thinking like it would have a weird hurtbox like Suicune's obviously, but it would make up for it a bit because the way I see it get launched like through the air is that it would be curled up in the ball, so it's not like a freaking, not in the ball, but like spinning around in the circle, so it's not just like you can hit it from down here while its head is up here. I think that was off screen on the camera. Oops doodle. And then on the wall it'd be like in a U shape. So it's not like it wouldn't be too long, but it would still be a weird hurtbox, and that sometimes that could be super weird against it. Sometimes it would be good for it, like if it uses its up stance, but like a lot of the time it would be very bad for it. But yeah, besides weird hurtbox shenanigans, it wouldn't deal as much damage compared to other characters, especially if it has an attack debuff and can't use Contrary to get it into an attack buff. And going back to the Coil and Leaf Tornado stuff to get them off them, they're really good if you can know what your opponent's going to do. So like if you see your opponent is definitely in the air, Leaf Tornado, it was very good. But they are also risky because if your opponent lands before then and then just blocks it, or you're thinking, oh okay, I'm going to use Leaf Tornado while they're blocking because I think they're going to get hit, they're going to press a button, something like that, and then they just block it and you get punished. You're risky in that regard. And I've already mentioned it quite a bit for Coil, whether it's like, oh, I'm going to grab Coil because I reacted to it, stuff like that. It's also really risky to have a grab burst attack like that. Since it's a grab burst attack, any normal attack is going to crit it and deal a lot of damage to it, which is really bad for someone like Serperior who has 540 HP. And then last thing, I mentioned the Coil stuff before with Leaf Storm. While it's cool that you gotta manage it, you also gotta make sure you don't screw yourself over, obviously, if you do it poorly. So it's like all around very cool mechanics. But yeah, that's just a general idea of what Serperior could be like in Pokken. I didn't really think much about it because I got the suggestion from Cobbster, who also did help me a little bit, so shout outs to him too, him and Mutator. But yeah, this was for him. because he's the only one who requested it. But yeah, I thought it would be really cool after I thought a bit more, be like, okay, long range, and then like a bunch of like side swaps, all that type of stuff, and then obviously the contrary stuff. I thought it would be really cool, like all together, mashed up together, and then some of the ideas like its counterattack being a low and then being a mid like that. I was like, oh cool, man, I really wish Pokken could get more fighters because everything would just be so cool. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope everyone has a great day. It's the first one in the new year, I think. I forgot when I did the Tyranitar. Yeah, that's the first one in the new year. But yeah, if you guys want to like, comment, subscribe, let me know in the comments if you want what other Pokemon you want to see. I already have my next one planned out. I'll keep that a secret for now because I am stupid. But yeah, have a great day, guys. Farewell.